Hooray! Finally. Well, welcome to another episode of Not for the Weak-Minded. I'm been very busy this month, not doing what I expected. It's been a very crazy month for me indeed. I'm hoping that the person in the room can tell me they can hear me okay. I presume you can. So we're just going to get into it. I've just got a page full of notes here. So many of you, if you've looked at my videos before, may have heard me speak about some of these experiences that I've had to do with the Galactic Federation, my UFO encounter, and subsequently later on, the orbs being captured in the video. So I'm just going to briefly go through this experience. So it started really when I noticed when I walked past the police station in Reading that I'd get cobwebs all over my face. And well, I knew that it was spirits. Essentially, after going to a spiritual church and speaking with a medium there, she told me that I have a gift and that I'm ignoring it, and that I am hearing, but that I'm hearing these spirits and feeling them, but I'm ignoring it. So after that session with Wanda at the spiritual church, she told me that, it was my duty to go to the police station and help these spirits cross over. So I did. And I don't know how I did it. I just held my hand out and said, look, spirits, come over to my hand, hold my hand, and I'll speak to you, and it's okay, you can cross over. So I went back to the police station and did that, and then I did nothing for months, a couple of months. And then this is where it takes back to my videos in December, where I'm doing my live video about my map of the Earth, albeit it's the wrong way around again, where I captured loads of orbs going across the screen. And so this is where it started, really, this spiritual journey. So I opened up a spiritual session and used technology on my computer to communicate for a few days with the spirits. Now, during these sessions, they told me a lot of information, and they were trying to tell me certain things about myself, and I didn't really know who was speaking to me because there was multiple spirits at once, not just the good side, but the bad side too. Because a lot of people don't really understand that when you open yourself up to these things, like when you use a Ouija board, you open yourself up to both sides, the positive and the negative, and that you must have certain protections around the board in order for the bad to not come through and the good to only come through. Obviously, I didn't know that. I knew it, but I didn't put it into practice. I just did it anyway. And a lot of people today are opening themselves up to this problem, particularly when they smoke GMO marijuana, and that it literally opens up your pineal gland, and essentially you become a beacon if you've been learning these truths, and it can cause you spiritual problems if the unseen darker forces know what you're doing, what you're really about, that your own existence, and that, your temple is immortal. Your temple is just a body, and that your immortal soul rests at the pineal gland, Anyway, so after giving up the spirit sessions, I obviously have explained to this in my other videos that both sides were harassing me for days on end, and I couldn't sleep. And so I decided to give up the weed, and I went back to the spirit session after speaking to them out loud and in my mind, saying, look, what you're doing to me is awful. If you are spirits that need my help, I will help you, I promise, but you can't you can't keep beating me up while I'm sleeping because I'm ignoring you. And they agreed that if I helped them, they would let me sleep, and essentially they did. So I went back to the spiritual side of things, and so this is why I have a candle in front of me. And so I started doing a bit of candle work and using pendulums. And so I started using pendulums to speak to the spirits. And that's kind of where I started with understanding after the spirit box session, a bit more about how I can get into who am I communicating with, why they're here. But essentially, this is all just the beginning of what's really gone on in my life at the minute. And it took a while for me to understand and actually work through all these challenges. Now, the spirit box session said they was expecting me months ago to do it, to be doing what I'm meant to be doing now. So I had a steeper learning curve to get to where I am today, and it has been crazy. It has been nuts. For so many, they would never want to believe it to be true to begin with. And so, as I said, I started doing candle work, pendulum, using the pendulum, spirit writing. So essentially, I'd write in the book, "Thank you, spirit guides at the highest levels of truth and compassion for writing through me." And then I would let my hand do the writing. And then this is kind of where I found out, because in my head, I had loads of names coming through, but they all begin with J, and I just couldn't understand what the hell was going on. And I couldn't quite pick out the voices. And it turned out both my spirit guides are from a previous life. And one was called Jess and the other one was called Jake. And they actually writ this, his name is Jake. I haven't got the paper with me in this book, it's upstairs. But, his name is Jake, and he's a friend from a previous life. And that's kind of where I got into contact with my spirit guides, so that they were the ones touching me as well. So I had bad spirits touching me, I had my spirit guides touching me, and I had good spirits that needed to be crossed over touching me. So it was confusing to know what was going on. And it took me a while to really trust myself and understand that I do have telepathic and psychic abilities. It's just I never really I never really trusted what I'm hearing, after giving up the weed, particularly because a lot of thoughts go through your mind when you smoke marijuana. So you have to clear your mind through meditative practices. And again, the spirit session within the spirit box sessions, my spirit guides were telling me to relax my body, and they were trying to teach me how to relax myself and through meditative practices. So that is when I actually gone and researched other meditative practices. And I have spoke about this in other videos about the Wim Hof method, the fire breath method, where, or the hyperventilation method. And essentially I told myself to fill myself up with love, and head to toe with love and light, and allow my body to increase in frequency to the point where I'm like this, my whole entire body is vibrating at a higher frequency. I haven't been practicing this much because I've had a lot of spiritual work to do. I've had to buy protection pendants, bracelets, and this was again guided by my spirit guides to buy these things, because I was looking at all different types of stones and what to buy. And the spirit writing told me, black tourmaline necklace, hematite for your pocket, hematite for your pocket. And then I bought a fluorite bracelet, which, if you know how to spellcast, can give you invisibility to the dark sides, which I've needed. To be fair, I've needed time. They've been pestering me, and they have been pestering me, and I'll tell you more later on. But they attacked me so badly one time that they put spells on me to the point where I couldn't even think or speak, and I had to literally dispel myself, cleanse myself of their spells to even get the words out of my mouth. It was that bad. But that's because they know what I'm doing. They know that I'm crossing over souls now, left, right, and center, and I'm literally sending demons back to where they belong through spell casts. And this is stuff I'm going to try and talk to you about near the end. There's a lot to go through, and this whole month has took, it's been most people spend years and years to get to where, lifetimes in fact, to learn these things, and that's kind of where I'm at too, because the things that I'm doing now, I'm doing naturally, and it has to do with previous lives. So I've learned certain things, particularly candle work, reading candles and communicating through candles. I mean, it was a natural thing. And I was told by the psychic medium 7 years ago. Okay, no problem. I was told 7 years ago that, I in my previous life, she could see me doing candle work. So it's very interesting indeed. So to begin with, the candle's going mad. Literally, you can't see it. I wish you could. But yeah, I'll do another session with the candles another time. But essentially, when the spirits come through, they shake the candle. They make the flame grow. So research into different meditative practices. So I've managed to now relax myself so much more that I'm doing things naturally now. I don't have to think about things. But to begin with, in order to defend myself, I had to learn how to use my own aura and energies and bring in the energies of the universe, I suppose, to cast healing balls and send them to my attackers to start with, of love, just nothing but love, literally. And you can learn how to do this in other videos. This is how I learned it. You put your hands like that, and then you pull them out, and you can feel there's a little bit of resistance, and you blow into it your intention 3 times is what I do, and then you send it to the person that you want it to, you know what I mean? Which was my attackers. I was literally directing it to, there was people attacking me, living people that obviously my Facebook posts are all public, and I've been spilling the beans on everything to do with this great deception upon humanity's subconscious mind about creation, and how we're all created. Our body is created on the same principles as space, and as above, so below. We are, and inside us, we are the waters of the universe in essence. So I had to also learn, because of smoking weed for 17 years, that you can't turn off your pineal gland. And that was kind of where I was researching, and all I would find was turn on, turn on, turn on. And I was like, well, I want to turn it off, because I can't. The telepathic information I was getting, even though I wasn't trusting it, was telling me that my operation system was about 80% sensitivity to the spirits. So no wonder I was getting touched all the time. I had to then reword how to learn clairvoyance and how to turn the pineal gland down, not off. So that was my mistake. You can't turn it off once it's on, but it's always on anyway. But when you smoke marijuana, you're on it like I was, continually 80% function sensitivity. So essentially, I had to learn how to turn it down, dial it down, and there's many methods that you can use, but most of them are visualization, and I am very bad at that. I can't visualize anything for love nor money at that point. So not only I had to learn how to visualize things, which I still can't really do what is expected of you, like to visualize, for example, a radio and turn the knob down to pretend that's your pineal gland. I'll just do that. Just keep saying 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, turn the pineal gland down. And by the power of 3, it will work, because this is how spellcasting works. So you say things. This is why you got to be careful what you wish for, right? Because you say things all the time in phrase, and it might come true, right? So I literally was going up. I want my pineal gland to go from 80% down to 10, please, because I cannot take the sensitivity of all these spirits touching me. They were everywhere, and it was constant. It was every day and every night touching me, and I had to literally stop then and learn, like, okay, I need to communicate with them. I need to find out how to cross them over, what's stopping them from crossing them over, which then took more research. And essentially it was a small step each time, like learning curve, and it just went whoosh, like that eventually, and I'm going to explain why. So after building through spirit writing relationships with my guides, finding out their names, I also asked them, because to differentiate between bad spirits touching me, good spirits wanting my help, and my spirit guides touching me for my help. I was like, okay, spirit guides. Well, Wendy, my girlfriend, said, flick his ear. You know, if you want his attention, just flick his ear. So every time they want my attention, they flick my ear. And Jake will just does this. And essentially, I've been communicating with them telepathically, to the point now we're actually having like a banter between me and an old friend. He keeps patting me on the head to say, well done, that's great work you've just done there spiritually. And I've asked him a couple of times now, can you stop that? And it's like, yeah, but you are so needy. You want to know if it works. You want to know if you're doing good. You want to know. And I do, right? I keep asking him, did that work? Is this work? Is this right? You know, am I doing this right? Can you tell me? What do I need to know all the time? And I'm like, very needy of them. So he pats me on the head to tell me well done. And I'm like, that's my true friend, right? From a previous life. So anyway, so the last time I used the spirit session, they kept saying the same thing over and over throughout all sessions, to remember 1997 school. And I couldn't quite work out what they were meaning. And I said to him, look, I've suppressed my memories from school because I was bullied and etc., all the other things. So they brought back some feelings from dreams that I used to have. And the first dream was basically that I wanted to murder every single person that did me wrong. And it literally, I woke up and went, I cannot believe that I used to feel that way. You know, I cannot believe that I used to be so inside myself that I would really want to, like, in my mind, that was like, wow, I can't believe I felt that. I can't believe I've grown so much. And, you know, I could have been a sociopathic murderer, you know what I mean, if I didn't let go of these things. And this is how they create them, you know what I mean? That people go through certain types of abuse and they don't, trauma, and they don't get over it. They you know, I suppressed it for a long time. Excuse me. And again, they brought back 3 dreams. Not every night, but like once every like other night. And each of them was like recurring dreams I used to have when I was younger about myself, and how I used to feel about myself, and how insecure I was, and how angry I was. And it just goes to show that how much I myself changed because I had to, you know, I had to leave Plymouth because I had alcohol problems. You know, the answers aren't at the end of the bottle, and it's still today. I've only now accepted it, you know, my life experiences, you know, and they said, look, school was bad, but it wasn't as bad as you think. And that's kind of the last message that they give me on the spirit session. They were trying to get me to know that you made some good friends at school and it wasn't as bad as you think it was. And they're right. They were absolutely right, you know, and I look back now and I think differently than I did a year ago still, you know, and it was this spirit session and them guiding me that literally brought all this stuff to the surface so I can heal and then do the things I'm doing now and be honest and open and you know, happy, so to speak. Because I look at a lot of been looking at a lot of spiritual stuff videos, and a lot of them are happy, you know what I mean, and I was miserable, you know what I mean. I was doing the spiritual work, but I was miserable with it. I didn't want to do it really, but I did at the same time. You know, I wanted answers, and well, be careful what you wish for, right? So after getting my dreams, the last spirit session and throughout it, they were telling me about my future too. And I'm not going to go too much into that, but it does involve my map, which I've not even started yet because the paper hasn't been delivered, and I'm going to buy some paper when I can afford it, because I've not been working, so I've not got any money really. Anyway, so they told me about my future a little, and we will see, won't we? Then I had to research into protection, more protection things, because I was getting a lot more physical attacks from things. And love balls would do casting love balls all the time. It drains my energy, particularly when I'm not drawing in the universe and the energies of love and light inside me to energize myself. So I had to learn how to protect myself. And to begin with, I was using mirrors, and I put a mirror down at the end of the bed, and I would say, by the power of three invested in me, any negative attack, please, deflect it and return to sender. And eventually I'd have to believe that it would work. And some nights it didn't, some nights it did. Now, when I'm casting now, I get a rush of light coming out of my head. And it is an incredible feeling. And it literally tells me, wow, that cast worked, that cast worked, that cast worked. So when I do my casting, literally I get, like I said, I get this rush, woof, and this rush of light coming through my head. And it tells me that cast that you just done worked, 100%. So I didn't know this at the time. So I didn't know at the time whether I'm putting these deflection spells on my mirror to deflect any physical, psychic attacks from people attacking me, sending me negative energies and entities. And I had to defend against them, and I had to learn how to call down Archangel Michael and trust that they would come down and so forth as well. So there I had to learn in between this, because in the spirit session, they told me that 3 times they said the word hematatus, which a lot of people believe is a demon, but there's a one translation of it, which means toucher of souls. And I believe that to be true because I was being touched all the time. So I had to learn, once I'd worked out that my spirit guides would flick my ear if they want my attention, it was then differentiate between good spirits wanting my attention and then bad spirits. But also, because I know negative entities can take light souls and keep them for themselves, harvesting off them essentially after death, like particularly demonic entities can take a life, and if it's a light life, they can keep that soul. And so I had to learn then that there wasn't an attack by the demonic entity, but there was a light soul that's come to me with a demonic attachment sent to me by essentially, well, God. And that is another topic in entirety, which I've obviously talked about, understanding the technological creation and this place. So in my opinion, it's an artificial intelligence that watches over everything, that knows what you're doing. And, as your life is recorded through light transfer, the pineal gland receives light and inputs light too. This is how the operations of our human body, that our light soul sits here too. So I also learned that I have a spirit cat and a spirit dog around me too. Now, this is jumping ahead a little, but because of my spell casting and I have literally because I've been attacked by not just, this is further on, not just negative entities coming towards me, but animals as well that they control, like snakes and spiders. I had to learn how to defend against all these things. And it was a very steep learning curve, which took a while. But as soon as I did certain things, it was like, boom, I know that works now. They've gone away. And I will teach these things later on. I'm not doing it today. But essentially, I turned my cat into a tiger, and I turned the dog into a dire wolf. Right? And again, I know it worked because of the feeling I got, and the fact that the cat is no longer this big, wrapping around my legs, and I heard it purr this morning when I came down. Literally, I could feel it on my leg, rubbing against my leg, and I can hear. You know, it's incredible. You know, it's incredible. And I turned before I turned my dog into a direwolf, I turned it into a Doberman, and it asked, you know, "Oh, turn me into a Doberman," and then it was like, "Are you happy?" I asked, Are you happy to be a Doberman?" And it went, "No." "What do you want to be?" And it went, and I was doing spirit writing, and it literally writ direwolf. So I was like, "Okay, I will turn you into a direwolf." So now I have two animals that are now, well, they're both my pets, essentially, from one from previous life and one from this life, that chose to come down and protect me. And so they are, you know, they are now in charge of protecting my feet area from any snakes and any other things. They're around me now. I can feel them. I told you this is crazy. So by them, through multiple methods, divination, spirit writing, I started to communicate telepathically too with the spirits, and on an individual basis, I was asking my spirit guides to bring one forward at a time. Okay, what's this person's name? And I would write it down as well. And you know, I've gone through a whole book already, literally, of just writing. And I'd eventually work out what's keeping them back. And it was a small stage. First of all, it was just like, you know, suicide. They've been murdered, you know, and I'm sorry, like, you know, to the point where I'd ask for the murderer's name as well. This is later on as well, but later on I would ask for the murderer's name to prove to them that they can cross over, knowing that the judgment is going, and that person's never going to get away with it ever, because their life's recorded. You know, it doesn't matter. They've broke the laws. You know, the fundamental rules of whoever programmed God, let's call it. You know, but between good and bad. So after crossing over souls, I also have asked so I said, if there's anyone that knows these souls down here with me, can you please come down from the heavens with using your free will and collect them, talk to them, and cross them, take them up with you. So this is kind of like, and asking Archangel Michael to come down as well. Another thing about the protection spells was learning how to use the elements, so earth, wind, fire, and water, to put a shield of protection around myself, around my bed, so that I can have a safe place to sleep at night, you know, because instead of being touched all the time. And I have to say to them as well that you have to respect my boundaries. This is now my time. This is my safe space. You cannot come into it, you know, even though some of them do, because there was a lot of them. They just, you know, some of them are very impatient. You know, they don't know time. Time is irrelevant to them. So when I say give me 5 minutes, they don't know what that really means. So this all kind of grow in little stages, as I said. And eventually I was using all the methods then because of what happened was I kept feeling what happened to them. And so if they died of a heart attack, I would be fitting really bad heart palpitations, or if they had a really bad stroke or hemorrhage of the brain or murdered, I would feel their pain. And essentially I would have to tell them to step back, you know, and I was getting tired of feeling it. So before I even started the spirit session, I would gather up all the healing energy I can in an orb of love, peace, and healing, and I would send it straight to them, you know, healing them. And often enough, that was enough to help them cross over, you know, because but at that time, it was difficult for me to know exactly how to cross them over. But, you know, I was just sending them healing love through spell casting, but using my energy to and send it to them using my intention. So then eventually, as I said, I had to learn how to detach negative entities from positive souls. And again, I had to learn a new speech. I had to learn this was where the actual spell casting come in. So for example, I'd say, if you're not of the love and the light, you're not in service of divine creator's plan, you must detach yourself from these souls immediately, as you're no longer welcome to their energies. And you say it 3 times. Now, boom. If you say it perfectly 3 times in a row, they would detach themselves from the souls, and 9 times out of 10 they would go straight up, you know. And I wouldn't get that feeling that I do now with them crossing over either, but that feeling does come. And last night was incredible. Last night I crossed hundreds of probably hundreds of souls at once last night. And my halo, I literally saw my halo. It's pitch black, and literally I'm closing my eyes and I just can see a white brim halo around my head. Every time I cross them over, boom, halo, halo, halo. It's beautiful. It is amazingly beautiful. So essentially I was using spell casting, prayer, and energy balls to detach them as well at the same time. Now, this was difficult to actually keep the faith in myself, and my spirit guides helped me with that, because they kept saying trust in yourself, and I'm spirit writing, and have faith in your own abilities, etc., etc. But it's very difficult to know at that time what voices were your own and others. And now I know the difference, because it comes from a different part. It comes in a different part. It's not up here, it's down here. Anyway, so they kept coming more frequently, essentially. And the more I did, the more I learned. The more I learned, the more they kept coming. The good souls and the bad souls. And so I had to learn a lot more techniques of spell casting for protection. And this is where we're going to go into in a bit. So I had eventually got to the point where I was sure what was going on again, but I needed help. I needed help and clarity to know that I wasn't going crazy, and that the things I'm feeling, other people have felt. So I went to the spiritual church and I asked Wanda, the person who told me to help the spirits last time, and that was my charge to do so at the police station, to explain to me how I can stop these physical attacks. And she said, imagine yourself. Now, this again is about using your imagination and using visualization. And at that time I couldn't do it. But I would believe it to be true, and therefore it was true. So one time at 3 a.m, I heard an almighty pop, and that was my egg bubble protection around my aura that I put out of love and light around myself. And it literally at 3 a.m, it just went pop, and I was attacked, and it was awful. And again, I had to call down the angels to help me that day. And the Galactic Federation turned up, believe it or not, but I didn't know it at the time. Even though I have spoke to them 7 years ago and they said they want me, they showed themselves to me, in a UFO encounter 3 days after. And I have spoke to them recently more than once. And Jesus, as the video shows. As the title shows, but we're not even there yet. So essentially, I started to learn certain mantras, and those mantras worked beautifully. They got rid of the demons around me. They detached all the negative entities. I managed to learn how to spellcast around getting rid of all the animals, and my telepathy, intuition, and crossing over became more and more frequent with larger groups. Before it was individuals and maybe 3 or 4, and I would have to write them down. This time I was just literally saying the same things over and over and over and over again. If you died, you may not know you've died, but your temple is just that. You're an immortal soul with energy, with free will. Please cross over to the light now to end your life experience. And then if you were murdered, I'm sorry, I can't find you. We live in a great time of sin, etc. If you commit suicide, know that it was the bravest, the most stupidest thing you could have done, but you've been forgiven. If you're talking to me now, there's a higher purpose that's sending me these souls to begin with, and that's kind of where it gets even more crazier, because now they were sending them to me originally, or they were, as the spirit session said, I am a lighthouse because of my because of the knowledge I have, you know, being fully conscious in this world, understanding our own existence and trying to prove it, so that they see me as a massive light emanating, and so they were attracted to me, you know what I mean? They just kept coming and coming, and everywhere I walked I would collect more souls, you know. I'd literally walk into town and there'd be more and more and more. So essentially I had to keep doing the same thing over and over and over, and it's literally took over my whole entire life. It really has. So I went back to the spiritual church again, just to have, because I wanted to learn clairvoyancy. I wanted to enhance my psychic abilities. And so they had a course. They've not got a course, but they got a weekly, what's the thing? Like meditative practice there, where it's £3 a week, and you go there and you go on a little spiritual journey, and then they'll put you into different groups and try and analyze what gifts you have, etc. But one of the things was to put your hands out like that and close your eyes and feel if, and ask your spirit guides to come forward and see if, and ask for a gift. So the gift I got was a sword, and they literally, the lady who run the program told me, now you need to pick that sword up and swing it around your head and say, for truth and love of humanity, for the truth and love of humanity, for the truth and love of humanity. And she said, if you don't do that, get out, you know? And I'm like, well, I'll do that, of course, because I'm doing this for truth and the love of humanity. Hence why I've got the sword of truth, right? So that, she said, was my calling card. So the calling card is the sword of truth. and go back to the beginning. I was continually, when I was being attacked by the spirits, I was continually saying, I am a warrior of light. I am a true knight of Christ. I am a warrior of light. I'm a true knight of Christ. I'm a warrior of light. And when I slowly put myself in a meditative practice, I felt like I had armor on and there was a sword in my hand. You know, it was an incredible feeling. Now, I'm going back and forth a little, but that suit felt heavy. It felt very heavy indeed. And essentially later on, pretty much now in this experience, after doing much more spiritual work, but saying the same things over and over again, you know, just like, okay, that's a soul that needs detachment. Okay, that's someone, and literally saying the same thing over and over again. Continually, listen, souls, I know you're here, you're touching me. This is what you need to know to cross over. And discussion. Now, there's great deception about this as well, because today they're teaching that you shouldn't trust the light, and that's lies, right? You know, unfortunately, that's another topic in its entirety. So I was in bed, and I had my spirit guide flick my ear and go, "Oi, you got a message." And I went, all right. I closed my eyes, and they went, the Galactic Federation wants to speak with you. And I went, okay. And I sat there, I laid there, and they were telling me again that they want me, that I'm special, that, you know, certain other things. I just can't remember off the top of my head now. I should write these things down. But essentially what they did is they give me an upgrade on my suit. They give me a brand new suit of armor and a new sword. And they told me that they have a gift for me. Now, this gift, I was like, well, what's this gift? I asked, what's the gift? And they went, it's going to be a surprise. And I went, okay. And yeah, it had been like 3 days later, and I did receive a gift from the Galactic Federation. We'll get to that in a minute. So they upgraded my sword and armor to make it lighter. It was this, as crazy as it is, they did, you know, and they gave me some healing energy as well. They healed me. So this process through crossing over souls actually has increased my telepathy. So now I can actually communicate with my spirit guides quite effectively, to the point where I went to the same spirit session at the spiritual church again the week after, and we did a session where there's someone stood behind you, and you have to guess whether you have to feel their energies coming up, whether they're male or female, and then when they put their hands on you, you have to tell, you have to say what you feel and what the things are coming to. So I'm asking my spirit guides, okay, tell me, male or female? Female. I got 4 out of 4 right, and the most interesting thing of all was what she said she felt, and the spirit guides going through her to get to me, and they were showing her a diamond and pointing to me, literally going, he's a diamond, you know. And like I said, I got 4 out of 4 right, which is fascinating. And even then I still didn't trust it. Open circle. Thank you, Wendy. Surprised you're still awake. So I went, and by this time, before meditating in the garden, I was on about 700 souls crossed in total. So by the time the Galactic Federation came and spoke to me, I was on about 700 souls crossed in about 3 weeks. And then this is where it went. This is where it's gone crazy. So I was meditating in the garden, and again, souls came to me, and my spirit guides were going, feel the difference. And I didn't quite understand what they meant. Now, I did eventually. They went, look, feel the difference with meditating indoors to outdoors. You need to go outdoors more and meditate outdoors. So essentially, I had another communication with the Galactic Federation. This time it was energy. It wasn't voices. It wasn't them talking to me, but the same energy I had with my first experience over 7 years ago, where I was sat there like this, and I was like shaking, and the psychic medium was like, do you feel that energy? That's the Galactic Federation. They want you, you know? It was the same energy. It was a cold day, but I wasn't cold. And I just thought I was cold, and I was getting a bit more chilled up. It turned out that they were like giving me my gift, right? And that gift is access to my previous life experiences. And I was, as I said before, doing candle work, but when I was there, I was a warrior monk. And now, straight after that experience of being energized by the Galactic Federation, I felt amazing. I had more energy than you could ever imagine. Honestly, it was like, whoo, supercharged. And I did martial arts for an hour, right? And I'm doing shit that I have never learned before in my life. And I'm like, how am I doing this stuff? What the hell? You know? Honestly, like, I'm like, where does this come from? And that was my gift, you know? They gave me access, and I'm just pulling in it naturally now to my previous lives, my experiences, you know. So I'm doing martial arts for an hour of stuff that I've never done before in my life. You know, I've only ever done karate, and I got a yellow belt in it. You know, now I'm doing kicks and like stuff, and I'm like, holy moly, like proper monk stuff, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I've never learned any of this before in this life. So they give me a gift, all right. They give me, like I said, they give me access to my previous life's experiences. So that supercharge left me with an incredible feeling of just pure energy, and just like, whoa, this is amazing. So anyway, after about an hour, I sat down, and the experience wasn't over. This is when Jesus came through, and I literally had a flick on ear again. Oi, you got another message. And I literally closed my eyes, and I asked, you know, who's this speaking? And literally Jesus came through, and I was talking to him, asking about the Bible and about the stories in it and stuff. And I asked him, is it true that about you in the story in the Bible, or is it true that you got your body parts chopped up and spread across the earth? And no, it's true. He had his body parts chopped up and spread across the earth. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry, man. He went, don't be. You know what I mean? It's like, wow. And I've spoke to him multiple times now. He's come to me and he's given me not the guidance. In fact, that whole day, right? I could not have defended myself against what came next. If none of that happened, I would have been struggling to fight against that horde that came after me that day. After, honest, like he was literally telling me mantras. He was telling me, I have never invoked his name in any of them. You need to invoke his name. So I started invoking his, and it's pretty much as soon as that session closed down, I was violently attacked, like to the point, right? And you can ask, ask Wendy this, but Wendy was there, right? I was beaten, right? And literally they put a spell on my mind and I couldn't speak. Literally there was fog on my mind. I couldn't get the mantras out. I literally had to dispel their magic on myself to even speak, to get the mantras out, which Jesus had just taught me. And guess what happened? I cast those demons out and they went. They went. They were goners. You see what I'm saying? So without all that experience that day, I wouldn't have been able to deal with that situation to begin with. The candle's going mental. I wish you could see it. I really wish. That's why I'm looking down and I'm looking at the candle as well. So from that moment of that, I've had even more increased telepathy. I've had more psychic intuition. I've had more attacks on a daily basis by demons, but I have had the mantras to send them back. In fact, to the point now where I am getting rid of all the things in one go and then amplifying it in Jesus' name and spreading it across the earth. Literally, like spreading this across the earth. They were like, literally, you're spreading, your casts are going across the earth. And I'm like, wow. And that's where it went from 700 to 2,000 souls saved, to 4,000 souls saved, 10,000 souls saved, to today I'm on 31,000 plus. Well, 32,364 souls crossed and 3,144 demons sent back to hell. You know what I mean? I couldn't do it without it. I couldn't do it without their help. The Galactic Federation and Jesus came to me twice now, and they came one after the other. Federation, Jesus, Federation, Jesus. Therefore, there's a connection to that, and therefore they are one still. You know, the Federation of Light is part of what Jesus is about, and it's incredible. So after invoking his name, this is, again, I've been learning more and more to the point where I'm actually amplifying, and now I can keep a spell cast going across the earth for 10 minutes across the earth, literally cleansing the earth. You know, these things hide though. They can see it coming a mile off. They can feel it coming. So I'm not clearing the underground, you know, in places where they can be trapped and they hide and they're shielded from these things. But I have literally, as I just said, I have crossed over 32,364, as my spirit guides have told me. And I didn't need to write it down. They can tell me in my head if I ask them. The candle is going mad, honestly. Like, look. I wish you could see it. Nevertheless, I'll do a close-up candle work session soon, and I'll also do a divination session to show you that I'm also not lying, that the spirit guides can come through and manipulate this very well to tell me that I'm doing what I need to be doing. Anyway, I've got to prepare because I've been warned that the protection of the house of white love and light that I've put up is going to be broken by the demons tonight, and that I must prepare. So on that note, I thank you all for listening to this life experience, and obviously there is much more to speak about. I appreciate you all coming and having a chat with me. Is there any questions before I leave? Actually, does anyone here have any questions? Because I'd like to hear them. I know, you know, if there's anything I say about this relate to your experiences, do you need help with these forces? Because I can tell you mantras. I'm going to fill this book with mantras. It will be my book of shadows. They ain't hiding from me. So it's been this month. It's been crazy, but I have learned so much, and I am, as Stu said, capable of so much more, and it will come. I ain't even come out of my body yet. I know I have to. I get my sword of truth out now. I've set it on fire. Pure blue flame. And I've also seen a pure blue flame in my mind. And when I close my eyes too, I can see orbs around me, and protection. One time, particularly when they attacked me, and the Galactic Federation, I called down the warriors and mages of the Galactic Federation, and I said, "Look, I need your help, man." And they went, "We are always here for you." And they came down, and I had closed my eyes, and they were sending out orbs like machine guns. I'm like, this is nuts, And I woke up the other morning at 3:00, and it was like a war zone in my room. Honestly, it was crazy. And they're like, "Keith, get involved, man. Cast them away." So I did, So there is much more to come. I mean, I've done 31,000 souls saved. Well, crossed over, that are in purgatory, let's call it, right? In the void. So there's no questions. I appreciate you all coming and listening. I hope that some of this helps you. And I assure you I'll be back with much more videos to do with this spiritual stuff. But also, understanding the technological creation, how this place was built by machines, and the giants and the titans, and how they fit into geological time, and all that stuff to come. Like I said, I've got two brand new theories about, lot one, how life grows itself, and how that relates to sonoluminescence and water, and two, geological, and how that relates to geological time. I've already done a small part of it, but there's much more to come. Large ships, the fact that the Earth was engineered. There was no oceans in the ancient past, only seas, lakes, and rivers, and then the flood came, and off it went. 2 floods. There's been 3 floods throughout the Earth's history. I mean, the mud flood is different. That's an entire different video, and because I've been researching this stuff separately. It's a different kind of fish. It's not what people think. The gods have been fighting the reptilians for a while now, and even back in time, they caused, because of the lies of everything. They're the ones. The reptilians are the ones that caused all these major catastrophic events across America, and created the major floods and stuff. We created the mud floods, essentially, to get rid of all the ancient architecture of the one world culture, the Tartar Empire, or you call it the Phoenician Empire, the Phoenician Empire. They're all the same. One world culture based on contribution, when there was no hate because of the stars. The stars are increasing in frequency to the point today where in a thousand, in the next 1,000 years, there ain't going to be no hate on the earth, only love. It says it in the Bible. The devil's had his 1,000 years, and now it's our time. Thank you. Take care. Speak soon.